All right, first off, I'd like to thank you for doing this interview with the Hype Magazine tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Very excited for this opportunity to get started. Can you tell the fans and listeners who you are and where you're from?
My name is Lynn Hobson. I go by the name of Money Lynn. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C.,
Okay.
but now I live in New Jersey and I work in New York City.
Oh, now with you being from Washington, D.C., was it harder for you or easier for you to get into the entertainment industry and, having this amazing career you have as a publicist and all this dope stuff you've done?
I think being from Washington, D.C., so how I got into the industry is that I went to Howard University
Yeah.
at a time where everybody went to Howard, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so being from DC and seeing this energy coming from New York and all these entertainers who were, not just wanting to get into entertainment, but like kind of like making it happen, I jumped on the bandwagon, was like, I don't know what they're doing, but I want to do it too.
Okay. Now, when you're at Howard University, like you said, at that moment, everybody's on fire. There's a lot of momentum going on. Who was the first connection you had, or what was the first thing you did when you got into the industry or got into entertainment?
So when I first got into the music industry, so being from DC, I wasn't really introduced to hip hop music that much because
Okay.
in Washington, D.C., we were heavily into go-go music.
Yeah. Go.
So in DC, I mean, at Howard University, everyone was into hip hop. So my college bestie took me to my first hip hop concert, which was the Notorious B.I.G. He was
Oh,
performing with an artist by the name of Tracy Lee.
yep.
And
Salute, Tracy.
and they had a hit song called Party Time. And they just kept running it back, running it back. And I was like, I don't know what this energy is, but I want to be a part of it. And that was my first hip hop concert. And that's when I fell in love with hip hop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Shout out to Tracy T. He's family. Really dope, legend in his own right. When you when you
Absolutely.
when you start, you're following Notorious Big's there, Tracy T's there, you fall in love with it. How did you become a publicist? Like, you're from DC, or you're in college, so you're very intelligent. I don't know what your degree was, but you have business sense. How did you transition to become a publicist?
So when I was going to Howard University, my major was business management. The
Okay.
first year at Howard, the first semester I got all A's and a B. The second semester I got all D's and an F. And
Okay.
my dad was like, "It's a wrap. I'm not paying any more money.
Yeah.
Here goes $20. Go figure it out." You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, and then I couldn't really go to my mom's house. My mom was out of the country, so I went with my then boyfriend, whose name was China, to New York City.
Okay.
And then in the interim, and trying to wait for my mom to get home, I got an internship at this PR firm called the Terry Williams Agency. And China had a brother by the name of Don Pooh. And Don Pooh at the time was co-managing the Notorious B.I.G. He was managing Foxy Brown, and he was managing Shine. And I became his assistant. I was also an intern at the PR firm. And then the internship turned into a job. My mom was like, "Come home." And I was like, "I'm not
Yeah.
coming home.
Can't do that now.
I'm not coming home now. I'm good." Yeah. And so the internship and being an assistant turned into a career.
That's amazing. So I wanted to highlight that because a lot of times people who are in this industry, I've learned that it was a situation that it kind of was at the end of the rope. There were, the outlet wasn't good for you, but you took a step, you took a chance. You moved from DC to New York with your boyfriend, and you get into that amazing opportunity. Foxy Brown, Notorious Big, amazing artist. What was it like being in New York from DC? Like, I know you said you were just introduced to hip hop in college, so now you're on tours, you're doing all this amazing stuff as hip hop and is really rising. What was that experience like for you?
Well, adjusting to New York City was huge
Yeah.
because I was born and raised in the suburbs, and so just trying to get to work with
Yeah.
train construction and stuff from Brooklyn, and you know, the person I stayed with, they showed me how to get there using one train, you know, but
Yeah.
then there was train construction, so I got lost. My first day as at my internship, I was 3 hours late.
Hmm.
And it was really rough, rats, jumping out of the trash,
Yeah.
the bright lights. bums, prostitutes. Times Square, it wasn't Times Square like it is now.
Right.
It was a different world. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Where are you based out of?
I'm based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, but we spent a lot of time in New York.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of pimps and hoes
Yeah.
in Times Square when I moved here in 1995. So,
A lot of
um,
people want to be in this music industry, but they don't understand what it's like in these areas like California, New York. These are dream locations you want to go to, but you just highlighted there's rats, there's, a lot of negative energy in there. How did you stay so positive and, get over that being from DC and moving to New York for the first time and getting that shock?
well, I love the hustle and bustle of the career.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily like New York City, but
Okay.
I loved my career. So it balanced out. But let me tell you, I would go home, I would cry every single day. Like, oh my God, I gotta get on this train again. I gotta get on this train. Then and I was a crybaby, Then after a while, I got adjusted, like, bumping people on the train back,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fighting for my space, you got to fight for what you want.
Yeah. A lot of times they say that New York will make you tougher, and that it's true. You just get used to that environment. Like when you're in New York, everybody moves real fast and they'll bump into you, and they don't really mean disrespect bumping into you. It's just, I got to get somewhere too. So if you're not moving at my right pace, you mentioned working with Foxy Brown and Notorious Big. So I got to ask you, like, what was it about those two artists that stood out? How did they become the legends we know today since you were there kind of early on? Was there something they did differently or their work ethic or?
They really believed in themselves.
Yep.
It was their work ethic, and they really believed in themselves. And from watching Don Poole work with them, and Mark Pitts work with them, they had a work ethic like no other. You didn't have to beg them to work. You didn't have to beg them to get into the studio, and they were just natural. It was they were born with that gift, and they were very confident. They believed in themselves, and at the end of the day, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to believe in you.
Yeah. Now you said you're an assistant at this time. Can we give a picture to someone who's new, thinking about being in this industry? What were some of the jobs you had to do? What were some of the tasks they expected you to complete for them in that role?
Well, for Pooh, sit in the car for hours,
Yeah. Hurry up and wait.
hours, while
Hurry up
he's
and wait.
up in like record labels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, hours, because parking, tolls, tickets, parking in Manhattan was really expensive. It was just cheaper for me to just sit in the car. I
Mhm.
would sit in the car for hours just waiting. And I learned from like listening to his phone calls, hearing him make business deals with booking agents, other managers, other promoters, other entertainment executives. I was
Yeah.
just a sponge.
They say a lot of times that's the best way to learn is just be in the room when it's happening. You don't always have to be involved in the situation. Just getting to see it or hear it, that allows you to tweak, what you're able to do. Now, who's the first client you had when you became a public? Well, let's step back. What is a publicist? Everybody hears this term. We all know you need to get a publicist if I want to be successful. But in your eyes, what is a publicist, and what are some of the things you do to help people, reach these dreams that they have?
So a publicist is a person who promotes people, places, and things.
Yeah.
So I promote people, places, and things, and I promote them in newspapers, magazines,
Yeah.
local television, talk radio, and the internet.
Yeah. Now, I know you've been around for a very long time, as you highlighted by the people we mentioned already, but how did
Yes.
you develop all these relationships? Because I know one thing is helping artists myself. It's the relationships that gets me in the door. It's not really the cashola or the payola everybody thinks. It's just knowing the right person or knowing the people that really do the work. So how did you form those relationships, and how does it feel now looking back to how powerful those relationships have grown to become? And they're still your friends, and I see you're still using them today. So how's that feel to see how far you guys have came?
It feels really good because, see, clients, they don't last forever.
Nope.
You know what I mean? So my network comes from Howard University. It comes from there. I went to school with the Mad Rapper. I went to school with Raz Baraka. He's the mayor of Newark. He's the future governor of New Jersey. Tracy Lee, the Mad Rapper.
Yeah.
I think Taraji went there. The Wayans brothers went there. Sean and Marlon attended. AJ Calloway from 106 in Park attended there. A host of music producers, Ron Lawrence. So I started off with my peers as my base.
Okay.
And then from there, one of them would be at a record label and say, hey, we're looking for a publicist over here. Someone would say, oh, I know Sister Soldier. She's looking for a publicist to promote her book, The Coldest Winter Ever. And it was just a word of mouth thing that started with the base. So relationships are important. I say, regarding with my relationships, I am a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got turned into some cash.
Yeah.
But my relationships are key. The clients don't last forever. They last anywhere from 3 months, 6 months, 9 months to a year. That's just taking Don Pooh, for example. I haven't worked with him probably since the early 2000s, but I just got a call the other day from his wife who was working on something. Wow. And it's just like, wow, you know what I mean? Yeah, you remembered me. And it's everything.
Is it hard to deal with that, the 3 month, 6 month, 9 month, 12 months? Because when you're with them, you're in the trenches with them. You're almost there, all the time with them. And then as soon as the budget runs out or the label changes focus, there's not that, they don't have that, still have that relationship. How do you deal with that, that constant change of this industry?
So, for example, let's just take Dipset. So I worked at this label called Entertainment Undias, which was Lance Rivera's and the Notorious B.I.G.'s record label. And then they signed Cameron. And I worked there at Entertainment. And then that tenure came to an end because the label folded. And then some years later, ran into someone who was Big Joe, who was a well-known bodyguard, ran into him. He was managing Cameron. And Cameron was like, I want you to go over here and work with Joel Santana. So It was kind of like, so if I had a 1-year contract, like 9 months, at the 9-month mark, I would be like, hey, y'all renewing my contract or no? Or no, you know what I mean? And then if they said no, or, I would then ask for more work, ask them what other clients they have. So if it was, so Dipset, there were several members. So I always had some work with them, and then from them spawned other work, you know what I mean? Other artists.
When you're a publicist, because we know Dipset, we know the major name they became. We all know Joel Santana, Jim Jones, Cameron, Elra. We know the members, but it's because of your work. What were some of the things you and your team did to magnify Dipset and really make them the household name we know today?
Well, with Joel Santana, his debut album, I worked with him from beginning to end. Just making sure that he wasn't. He was at every single interview. He was on time. He was media trained. He was the perfect, ideal client. He never told me no in terms of interviews. He understood the value of doing interviews. But all of them did, and all of them still do.
Yeah, facts.
You don't really see them turning down an interview. You see them saying, "Oh, an interview. Let me. What do I have to promote?" Being at Howard University at homecoming one year, Cameron was shot, and that was my hometown. So we put together the press conference, and unbeknownst to me, Cameron was like, yeah, I got shot and my album dropped,
he used it as
oh my God, this is what you're doing.
Always marketing. And when you look at it today, Cameron is part of one of the biggest sports podcasters So all those years you had giving him media training or those tips, he's been able to implement those. How does it feel to see the progression he's had? Jim Jones now has moved up to his platform where he's a very respected artist and, a legend in his own right. So how does it feel to see those two careers and the impact you had on them?
It feels amazing because, there's nothing like being with someone from day one. And then because when I met Cam and Jim, I want to say they were teenagers running around the record label, with their hand out. I'm hungry. Give me some money for this. Give me some money for that. And look at them now. They're executives. They're bosses. They're always trending. They're always in the news,
Always, yeah.
always in entertainment. Yes.
Now you wrote a dope book, Diary of a Hip Hop Publicist. What
Yes.
made you write this book, and what was some of the responses you got from people who read it when it first came out?
I've been getting some. I dropped the book in 2017. A new edition of it is coming out June 1st, an
Okay, fine.
updated edition. When I wrote that book to commemorate my first 20 years in the entertainment industry. So each chapter is named after a client I've ever represented. And in each chapter, it's kind of like the client is the feature, but it's like I'm the feature and
Yeah,
they're the backdrop. It's about showing up to work with a smile on your face
yeah.
despite all hell breaking loose in your home, and having to cater to the client, you know? Yeah.
Now, when the artist read the book, how did they react to that? You like said each chapter was highlighting artists. Did one of the artists you highlight have any, did they like that? Did they have any feedback about that situation or anything?
I don't know if they all read the book. I know that um, one of the members of the Sugar Hill Gang read the book,
Yeah,
because I had a chapter in there with them. And at the time, Sylvia Robinson, who is the godmother of hip hop,
yeah.
Sugar Hill Records, Sugar Hill Gang, she passed away. I produced that funeral. Um, they love their chapter. Rough Riders, they love their chapter. At the time, there was a D Wah, and at the time, and a lady named Keisha, and
Okay.
Keisha was running Rough Rider Records with them. She at the time was dating Wah, and she read the chapter. And in that chapter, I was talking about how they called me in to interview me for the job to be a publicist, and I didn't have the money to get on the train.
Yeah.
And so I hopped the train, you know what I mean? I hopped the train to go
Gotta
get
do what
that
you gotta
check.
do. Yeah.
And they remembered that. They loved that. They kept me in mind when DMX passed away, and they allowed me to co-produce his funeral.
Oh man, amazing.
Yeah.
When because like I said, you're a publicist, so a lot of times you're more impactful to these artists' careers than you get credit for. Like the public doesn't know all the stuff you've done, but when the artist remembers what you've done or appreciates like that, does that give you the motivation to keep helping these artists and all these dope companies that you're a part of?
Yes, it does give me the motivation. So the scope of work in terms of a publicist has changed a lot. So yes,
Yeah,
we used to be in the background a lot.
yeah,
There used to be this untold thing that, when we're out and about, we would wear black,
yeah. So they didn't see you.
and we would just be very like in the cut and inconspicuous.
Yeah,
Now, social media is kind of like the new publicist. It's like you just have to know how to work it. And so being outside, posting, basically showing off your work,
yeah.
showing off what you accomplished for the client, that's what gets me the next client now.
Is it hard to make the transition? Because, like you said, you're there day one. Now we're in a digital arena. Everybody has a camera. Everybody thinks they can do this, but there's tricks to the trade of being a publicist that matters. Is it hard to deal with that? And then, what are you using in today's technology to make things easier for you?
Yeah. So the difference now is that, well, I'm in school. I
Oh,
go to N
congrats.
I go to NJIT. And I've taken AI courses.
Okay. Yeah.
I've taken anything AI related. I've taken cybersecurity courses. You know what I mean? Because their social media pages get hacked. I
Yeah.
am kind of like a hacker. I can hack. I can figure things out.
So don't make you
Um,
mad. Okay.
no, well, that's why I have longevity. I'm not one for the get back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you do good work,
Yeah.
I'll just let God handle it.
Yeah.
Okay? He can do them better than I could ever imagine.
I love it.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, Staying above the curve. I stay on TikTok
Okay.
and YouTube. I don't watch TV. I am a learner. I'm continuously on YouTube,
Okay.
watching the TikTok trends. What's the new algorithm on Instagram? I'm not really a Facebook person, even though Facebook is number one.
Yeah.
But I'm really on TikTok now, Instagram, and I'm posting a lot.
Yeah. Are
Oh,
you?
and I've also added social media management onto my arm of responsibilities.
I was gonna say
So
it's a
I manage like 15 accounts. I literally have 15 accounts on my Instagram and TikTok page. They'd be like, "Damn, girl,"
yeah.
but
Now that's dope because you mentioned AI, and it's always curious to me because some people are running away from AI, and then
oh
the
hell
people who
no.
really do this
I'm
stuff
done with
are
my
leaning
work by
into it.
noon. I'm done with my work by noon, boo. So
Yeah,
it used to take me 2 hours to write a
yeah,
bio and 2 hours to write a press release, And with AI, you have to train it. You
yeah,
have to train
yep.
your AI. Like my AI already knows my name, where I live. I introduced my AI to my clients. I have a new
Oh
client.
wow.
This is what the client does. This is my client is a black man. He's 40 years old. He wrote a book called Hip Hop for Freshmen. He has, an account with the Board of Education, and I need to get him in this, that, and the other. So I'm already pouring into it. So when I need the press release, I
Yeah.
need the contact information for, the editor at the Source magazine or something like that. It's 1, 2, 3 is done,
Now, is that hard for you because as a publicist, one of your roles was to create those documents and those write-ups and stuff like that. So was it hard to let go? I had the same situation, and when I started using AI at first, I felt like I was cheating because man, I can do this in 2 seconds. Like, why am I getting paid to do this? But then people told me it's just knowing how to use the information the right way. Is it feel weird to you because your specialty at one time was creating all this dope, write-ups, but now you can use AI and stuff?
Hell no, it doesn't feel weird. No way, it doesn't feel weird. In school in NJIT, when I had my final, um,
Uh-oh, don't give the secret now.
when I had my final, someone raised their hand and was like, "Can we use, our notes? Can we look back at our notes?" And they were like, you better figure it out. It's all about who gets the best grade." So I was like, "So I can use AI?" They
Yeah,
said, "Who get the grade?"
yeah.
And so, I got 100. I'm the top of my class.
There
You
you
know what
go,
I
yep.
mean? But one thing I can't stand is I know when someone is using AI, and I really can't stand it, even though I use it, because it's like when you use AI, that's really for the base of your work. There are
Yep,
words like resilience and
yeah,
unwavering, and it's like, oh God, like
yeah.
swap those things out, like change it up a bit. You know what I mean? And cater it more to whatever it is you're writing. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you spent your whole career helping other people get the exposure and stuff like that. I see Black Enterprise did a dope write up on you. What's it like being on the other side? Like we're interviewing you now to tell your story. What's it like to be on the other side now when people want to hear about your journey and your story?
Oh man, it's very interesting because like as a publicist, I'm always when like say for example, if I have a client a flex, I don't know, a client, coming on and doing their interview, I'm like, "Where's your book?
Yeah.
Where's your background? Where's your light? Where's your ring light? Where's your this? Where's your that?" I don't have my book. I don't have my ring light.
Yep.
I don't have any of that stuff because it's like, I'm still getting used to being in the
Yep.
forefront, and being in the forefront is important
Yes.
because if I don't promote myself, then no one's gonna know who I am.
Yeah. And you have so many stories. Like I'm listening to what you're telling me, and I'm like, so much emphasis right now on podcasting is people who have stories like Fat Joe and Jadakiss about to do a podcast. So these stories you have the story of Notorious Big from the beginning to that you have all these dope things. Does that entice you a little bit to get into more streamings, Twitches, and stuff like that, and telling all these amazing life experiences you've had?
Absolutely. I thought about going on right now. So right now, when it comes to social media, it's like I have different personalities depending
Okay.
on the platform.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So on Snapchat, I'm Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? I'm ratchet. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Gotcha.
On TikTok, I'm Pastor Lynn. I'm Auntie Lynn.
Yes.
I'm teaching, I'm giving advice, I'm encouraging people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then on Instagram, it's just like an art show. I'm just showcasing my work. Not really showing much of my personality, but showcasing my work,
More content
So
based. Yeah.
yeah, it's weird, but hopefully one day it'll come all together.
Now I see your faith is real big on what you're doing, so I want to highlight that because the same thing for me, and I think a lot of people think there's no good people in this industry we're a part of. So how important is your faith to you, and how does that keep you grounded during all these amazing moments we've highlighted tonight?
Well, well, I'm a Christian, and having my faith in God is extremely important. I'm growing. I was born and raised in the church, but didn't
Okay.
really appreciate it then. I appreciate it now as an adult. I've run into so many different roadblocks and drama in the entertainment industry, and um, it's always been the Bible and God that has kept me grounded. And what I realize is the more I stay in the Word,
Yeah.
the lighter my load is,
Yeah.
the more money I make,
Yeah.
the more focused I get, and the happier the client. So I can have 20 clients and I can still find time to read and spend time 2 hours a day with God and get all my work done. And it can't I'm an entrepreneur. You hit rock bottom several times. Okay.
Yep.
I've had $1 million in the bank. I've had $500,000 in the bank. And as of January 1, I had $0 in the bank. You know what I mean? And I can go from $0. So I can go from $0 in the bank to today, $64,000 in the bank. So that's nothing new to me.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
I'm used to it. So, but in this season, because we're in a world, we're living in a crazy world where like my quick little 1-2 go-tos don't work anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but the one mainstay that works is God.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
It works. Like, trust me, it works,
And I think that's why that came in. I think he wants to let you know through this that you've got a voice out there. You can tell his side of the story and all the greatness that you've done. Because every time you got in a room you weren't supposed to, it was him to open the door. So,
Absolutely.
I definitely see that for you. I had the honor to talk to one of your clients, Amadeus, with SBR Talk Series. How did you two meet, and what was it about him and his talent that made you want to be his publicist?
I met Amadeus when I first moved to New York. Well, I heard about him when I first moved to New York. He was, I think, dating someone who we went to the same hairdresser where we were getting our hair braided at the same place. And I remembered his name. And then we would meet at events, and we connected right at the beginning of the pandemic. My workload stopped. Having a publicist is a privilege. It's not a necessity. You know what I mean? So I'm not an essential worker. So
Thanks.
my air supply was cut off. And so was his, because no one wants to buy beats. We don't know what the status of the world is. And so I said, you know what, Amadeus, why don't you write a book? Why don't you write a book about your life, but cater it to teenagers? Because teenagers were, they're vaping. Everybody wants to be a rapper. Everyone wants to be a ball player. And the margin of success for that, a margin for them to get into that field is very slim, almost like 1%. And so he told me the story. I wrote it. I then passed it on to my sister. She illustrated the book. We all divided up you get 30%, you're the author, I'm the writer, my sister's the illustrator. And we've been selling books.
Hey.
Yeah, we have had over 22 orders of that book. That he sold more books than me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm talking about 300 books at a time, and it's a positive book. The principals love it in New York City. Well, all around the country now,
Wow. Where can people get that at? Is it on your website? Is it on his website? Where do people go if they want to support the book?
For Amadeus's book, it's you can go to his website, IamKingAmadeus.com or KingAmadeus.com. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Now I seen you recently celebrated your birthday, so happy belated birthday. You had
Thank
a derby theme. What is the motivation behind the derby theme, and how's it? Is that one of your dreams to do an event at the derby, or anything like that?
So when I was growing up, my grandparents lived in Louisville, Kentucky,
Okay.
and my grandfather had a church there. And so going to the Kentucky Derby was a big thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So every year, my grandparents would dress me and my sister up, and we would go to the Kentucky Derby. So in DC, I helped promote an annual event called the Derby Experience.
Yeah.
And we had that in DC with a group called Next Level Entertainment Group. They are my clients. But some unforeseen circumstances happened personally with a relative of mine here in Jersey, because it's me and it's just another relative of my cousin. She got sick,
Oh
and I
man.
didn't feel comfortable going home to DC with her up here sick. So my friends already had their outfits. We were going to rent a Sprinter and go down to DC to this party. But instead, this well-known restaurant in Edgewater, New Jersey called Caviar Bar was like, you and the ladies come over here. And we were like, hey. And so we put on our derby outfits and turned up.
That's dope. I seen also this past weekend you had, access or a part of the Met Gala. We all dream of that experience. What was your role? What did you get to do? And how does it feel to be able to have access to some of these legendary things that most people just dream of?
Yeah, so again, Don Pooh sent me an invitation. He is the owner of a restaurant called
So
Brooklyn Chop House in Times
yeah,
Square. He
legendary.
invited me to a private event where they were sponsoring Mary J. Blige's, I think, champagne or wine called Sun Goddess. And we went there. She hosted the night. An emerging R&B artist by the name of Honey Baby performed.
Blue
You
honey.
know, it was open bar. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was stop number one. Then we went over to, I think, Burna Boy had an event with Black Coffee. And then we went over to the Gansevoort, which was, I think it was an event for a hair stylist, but DJ Booth was there. He's Nicki Minaj's DJ, Fabulous's DJ. He used to be Pop Smoke's DJ. He was there. Some other influences were there. Busta Rhymes was there. And we were leaving, and Busta Rhymes was like, "Oh my gosh, look! Can I take a picture?" And I was like, "Really?" I said, "He was like, yeah." I was like, "Bet, come on, let's go."
Yeah, that's
It
amazing.
was fun. It was a fun night.
Now I know, in our role in this entertainment industry, sometimes the greatest feeling we have is helping other people or our family. I seen that your mom got an amazing opportunity to be a part of a show. She asked you for it, and you got a chance to do that. Can you tell us the show she got a chance to see, and what's it like to help your family like that? Like parents, they know we do some fly stuff, but when you can actually give them a gift to experience it themselves, what's it like for you?
That was truly a full circle moment. She had been asking me for tickets to the Sherry Shepherd show
Yeah.
since Sherry Shepherd took over the Wendy Williams slot. And I have a friend, Marco Glorious, who is a producer for the show, and DJ Sus One, who is also the DJ for the show. I
Uh-oh, your camera went out. Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay. So the Sherry Shepherd show, and I was like, Mom, when I get a client on the show, then we'll go. How about that? And not even 6 months later, my youngest client I've ever had, Montana Monroe, went viral.
Okay.
And she went viral for an audition. We sent her on an audition to model in the Brooklyn Fashion Week. The audition tape went viral. Naomi Campbell posted it. A lot of well-known models reposted it. Sherry Shepherd saw it, wanted her as a guest on the show. And I was like, hey, Mom, come up. And so that was a great full circle moment. She got to get a picture with Sherry Shepherd, because she just wanted to sit in the audience,
Yeah, she just want to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, but she got the whole experience. She went backstage, she went on stage, and my mom is 75 years old, so just to see the joy in her face,
Yeah.
it was priceless.
Now, I seen you did some work recently with Roxanne Shante, the legend herself. I seen all the rollout you did for it. Can you highlight, like, maybe there's an artist out there or a legend? I work with a lot of legends too, that they're looking for a publicist, and they're just not sure what they would use them for at this time. Can you highlight some of the things you did for her to help that rollout?
Okay, so for Roxanne Shante, she had just been honored at the Grammys for a Lifetime Achievement
Yep.
Award. So what we were trying to do was she got the award, so it's kind of like putting the carriage before the horse. And she really should have had a publicist as soon as it was announced that she was getting the
Yeah.
award.
Facts.
Um, but it was kind of like I guess she thought that she could manage it herself, but it was starting to get a little bit much. So when it started to die down, she was like, I need to do this, do that, and so I just filled the order.
Dope.
Yeah.
Now, what's a day in the shoes? Your shoes look like you're a successful publicist. You got all these celebrity clients. You've been in this game all these years. What's a typical day look like for you?
I wake up at 4 a.m.
Wow.
and I pray and I fill myself up from
Yeah.
4 to 6 a.m. Okay. And then I go to the gym for an hour, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. I go down to the gym and just walk 1 hour on the treadmill.
Nice.
7 to 8, 7 to 7 from 6 to 7. 6 to 7, I'm on the treadmill. 7 to 10 a.m., I'm on social media.
Okay.
3 hours out of the day, I'm posting on all of those client social media accounts. I spend about 30 minutes a day per account between those 3 hours.
Are
So
you posting daily on their accounts, or are you sporadically doing it?
I'm posting daily. So if I'm not posting on their page, I'm posting on their stories,
Yep.
or I'm engaging on other people's pages from their pages.
Yep. Trying to get the algorithm going. Yeah.
Keeping the algorithm going. That's to 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. I'm outside walking my dog, grabbing some coffee, talking to my neighbors. Some of my neighbors are my clients.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and then I come in the house at 10 a.m. I take a shower. And then I really start like I'm done with my day by like 1 o'clock. And because
Wow.
I'm using AI
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
like 11 a.m. to 1, all of my writing, pitching stuff, and then everything else is I can do it from my phone, whatever needs to be done. So the rest of the day is just troubleshooting
Yeah.
or out in the field with clients who have interviews, photo shoots, or whatever.
Now, I know there's always these people think that being in this industry is all fun and games, but I know as a publicist, there's those moments where something's come down the pipe that you didn't anticipate, and you got to act on it quickly to save the day or save the campaign. Can you give us a story of you've experienced where you had to make a quick decision or something relied on you to get done in time for the release or something like that?
Oh man, something that got that's every single day.
That's what I was gonna say.
I call it remixes.
Yep.
It's always a remix every single day. I mean, I can't even. Every day there's a remix
Every
every
day.
single day. I mean, every single day. I mean, I have a friend that came in town and spent like 3, 4 days with me, and she was watching my phone go off and watching me, and she was just like, "What? I can't. How
Yeah.
do you do it?"
Yeah.
And so it's become a norm. It's so normal to me now that I don't even know what to say or what's
Yep.
okay. Okay. I one incident is in my book, Rock Wilder,
Okay. So the rock rider.
producer. He was nominated for an MTV Music Award.
Yep.
But at the time, the music producer wasn't important, so they gave us seats in the nosebleed seats.
Yep. Facts.
And we were like, well, if they call Lady Marmalade with Little. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So we were like, if they call your record, what are we gonna do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
How you gonna get to the stage?
yeah, we were up in the nosebleed seats with the fans for MTV. Okay, so we swapped decent balcony seats with another set of fans, who were seated by the staircase.
Okay, so it'd be easier. Yeah.
So I was like, listen, we gonna haul ass down those staircases, 5 flights if they call your name.
Yeah.
Boom, they called his name, and we hauled it down into the stage.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, right. It's always a constant changing environment. Like you never
Yeah.
know what to expect in those moments. And then the artist or the person who's your client, they expect you to fix everything. They're like, you're my publicist. This is what you're here for. So you gotta kind of troubleshoot stuff like that when that happens. Um, uh, mm. Okay, I'll clip this. I'll edit this for us where it cuts out, so you don't
Oh,
have to worry about that.
I have my phone on do not disturb, so I don't know why.
We're talking about how busy you are, so it was
I don't
perfect,
know why. People will call the same. The people who call me at this time of night, I said, do not call me.
Uh-oh. Just they know you're on the live. So I know we're coming to the end anyway, so I'll start wrapping it up. But I wanted to ask you, do you have any advice for someone who wants to be in this music industry or is thinking about being a publicist today?
Yes, my advice is this: go to college.
Yeah.
Get education in something, because that's your backup. Education does not ensure success, but you need to be educated in something. You need to implement a prayer life, hustle, and discipline. You have to pray. You can't just sit there. You have to implement hustle, and then you have to implement discipline to repeat it day after day after day.
Now you also do a lot of motivational stuff. You help life coach and stuff like that. So it was interesting to me when I was talking to you about what your normal day is. You broke it down into hours, so I can tell you're very oriented, routine oriented. How important is a strong routine? Not just being in the music industry as we talked about, but being a successful person, or in general. Mhm.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
You said how strong?
I was saying, I'm trying to think about what it is now. So, we've mentioned how important a team is to you. Who are some of the team members that help you with your operation, and who help you with your day-to-day activities?
I used to have a staff. It's just me.
Okay, you do it all by yourself now.
I do it all by myself. I have a photographer that I always use,
Okay,
like independent contracted workers. I have a photographer I always use. I have a videographer I always use. I have a graphic designer that I always use.
got it.
Um, I have a makeup artist I always use for clients, hairstylist. So these people are just kind of work for hires, and I just
Yeah.
hire as needed.
Okay, dope. But you have the same consistent people. You have
Same-
these relationships and all
Yes,
that.
yes, same team. Yes, yes, yes.
Now we've highlighted a lot of your careers, successes that I was able to find when I was looking on your social media. What's a memory of yours that stands out, and why does it stand out for you?
The memory of mine that stands out is my first client that I've ever had as an independent publicist, and that was Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And um, I got fired from the PR firm where I was working for just doing too much, not humble,
Yep.
feeling myself as a young adult. Got fired, walking home crying from unemployment. His Mike Tyson's sister pulls up in this, Rolls Royce and was like, "Why are you crying? What's up?" And now we called you at the office. They said you fired.
Oh, so you already had to connect with him. Okay.
And the sister, and it was a sister, and I was like, yeah, they fired me, but they had gotten rid of him as a client, or he ended his relationship with them, and they invited me over in a few days, and I did my presentation to be his publicist for Iron Mike Entertainment,
Oh,
his
wow.
record label, and I got the job, and that I'll never forget that.
Yeah. Now, what do you like to do for fun? I know you said you're back in school. You're trying to learn more information as this game is constantly changing. But if you got downtime or you're not helping a client, what are you doing and enjoy yourself?
I love to travel.
Okay.
Love to travel. I recently went to Egypt. I've traveled all over the world, so it's different. You can travel with clients, but
Yep.
you're in and out of these countries. Um, but now I try to make it so that if I go, I'm flying separately, and I can just spend
Enjoy
some.
yourself. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to going to Zanzibar this summer with my family. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
For people who like to travel as well, do you have a recommendation on where people should go that's not as publicized or known to the public? Oh, I'm saying, do you have a recommendation for people who like to travel? You have somewhere that you've been that people are not on people's radars, but they should definitely check out.
I really love Toronto.
Okay. Yeah.
Toronto was a dope city. Um, I also love. You mean in the States?
Worldwide. You said you travel worldwide, so
Croatia.
wow, I wouldn't have thought that. Okay.
Croatia, yes. I have a brother-in-law who was a basketball player, but now he's a basketball coach. Um, Croatia, their pink sand beaches, beautiful. Yeah.
Um, do you have anything upcoming, like your clients or yourself? Anything we can circle on a calendar for you to help support when it drops?
Yes, I'm coming out with the new edition of my book, Diary of a Hip Hop Publicist, second edition.
Okay.
I'm doing a Master P weekend with Tiana Von Johnson in Newark, New Jersey. We're doing a summit and we're doing a concert with Master P and the
Yeah.
Locks. Master P will be retiring soon, and
Oh wow.
yeah, maybe we'll be doing one of his last concerts. I don't know. You know. What else do I have coming up? And I have tons of speaking engagements at colleges, universities, um, networking mixers, stuff like that. Every weekend, I'm always booked to
Yeah.
speak.
I
Yeah.
seen you had a chance to go to the preview or the filming of Sinners. How's it? What was the access? What were you there for? And how did it feel to see that amazing movie that we've all seen in the theaters, but get to see it, before it was released?
Yeah. So Michael B. Jordan, who was born and raised in New Jersey, um, had a complimentary screening for Newark, New Jersey.
Oh wow. Okay.
And everybody came out. He had, the celebrities and everything came out. One of my clients is the Newark International Film Festival. They were producing these screenings. That movie was amazing. From a Christian perspective, at first I was like, I don't know, it's a vampire movie, it's demonic, da 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 da
Yeah.
da. But I just feel like it was Ryan Coogler's way of like producing a Christian film.
Oh wow. I never thought of that. Yeah.
I mean, it's like what you surround yourself with, you become.
Yeah.
You
Facts.
know what I mean? Because the Bible was rooted all in it. You stray away from it, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Demons are real, vampires are real. You know what I mean? So the more you know, the more you grow.
And then last question, like I said, really honored to have this conversation with you tonight. What do you want to say to your fans and supporters who's been rocking with you all these years?
I just want to say thank you. This life, we're constantly changing. I'm not the same person I was when I entered this business 30 years ago, 20 years ago,
Mhm.
10 years ago. I'm not the same person from yesterday. And
Yeah.
so
continuously watch me evolve. You know what I mean? And I just want to say thank you for following me on the journey. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for all of the changes and staying with me, sticking with me through the growth. I truly appreciate it.
You said the second edition or the new version of your book is coming out. Do we
Yeah,
have the date, and where can people go pre-buy or pre-order it for you?
they can pre-order it. Well, it is available. The second edition is available on Audible
Okay.
already. It's an audiobook produced by Jonathan Williams. And then the hard copy or soft copy will be available on Amazon.
And then last question, if people want to, reach out to you about your skills as a publicist, or maybe there's other podcasts that heard your stories and are like, yo, you'd be a dope, guest to have on, what's the best way to contact you?
Call me on my cell phone.
Okay.
Yeah, 347-385-4092. This was the same. This is the only cell number I've had my entire life since it was Sprint with free nights and weekends. You know what I mean? Send me a text. I'm not answering the phone. Send me a text, and then we'll figure it out.
Dope. Well, I appreciate your time tonight. I hope you have a great night.
And thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Definitely. Hold on.
All right.